recording. I don't give a All right, I am with Chris Prado, an old friend of mine who looks like $1,000,000. I want to get in with you today the transition, or the transformation, I should say, of your life, especially the last 10 years that I've seen, including the weight loss, block therapy, some of your videos that you do on nutrition, and just your lifestyle in general, because you are somebody that I noticed has made a 180 in your life on so many different levels, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
the way you look at, I think, health, all these different things I want to get into with you if possible. Let's first start when we met and we worked together when we did valet. You were a lot heavier. What was your weight back then?
I was probably sitting around like 230 or 240.
Okay. And then what are you now?
Right now, I am teeter-tottering just under like 200 pounds.
Wow. You lost that weight. You look like a different person. I'm sure a lot of people don't even recognize you sometimes because you just had a whole different image to you, your whole body, right? Your presence.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. Well, your whole physiology changes, right? And the way you think, everything changes when it comes to weight loss. It's not just dieting. It's not just changing what you eat. It's not counting calories. It is a mindset. It's a manifestation that's first created in the mind, right? And that's where I think a lot of it starts. It's for me, it's been lifelong. Before you knew me, I was a lot smaller, but then before that, I struggled with eating disorders as a child. I was morbidly obese,
Really?
as a child. And in middle school, I was wearing size 42 pants, and I was 265 pounds.
I did not know that.
And it was here. It was here because as a child, I had a lot of emotional stuff going on, and the only thing I could control is what I was putting in my mouth and when. And that was, that's where it all started, man.
Of course. Yeah. I talk about that. I had reverse anorexism where no matter how big I got, I always felt small.
Yeah.
Everybody goes through their own thing. But the thing with you when we're parking cars is you were jacked kind of. I mean, you had a stomach, but you were still, you've been strong. Were you working out then during valet when we're doing that? Or were you just...
So that was... I was an athlete. I was doing competitive weightlifting prior to getting into that. But those were the days where you knew me. I was, 18 years old, man. I had just started partying and drinking, and that's when all the weight started coming on. So, I had lost. Let's reverse back to around middle school time, right?
Sure.
I was morbidly obese, dude. I was fat. I was huge. And when I got into high school, 9th grade, I wanted to be on the football team. I got on the weightlifting team. I was strong. I was naturally strong, but got on the football team, and I only played 10 seconds the last game of the season, and we lost every game, so that doesn't say much. So that after that 9th grade year, it stuck in my head that I had to lose weight. Some mentors came into my path, and lo and behold, man, I lost, 75 pounds. From coming out of 9th grade and then into my 10th grade year, I lost 75 pounds. I'll never forget, I read the book, and my nutritional knowledge has changed from this, but I had read a book called Body for Life by Bill Phillips. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's an old book, but I read it, and I got into like this bodybuilding diet. I was very into bodybuilding, a typical bodybuilder's diet, all protein, cottage cheese, low carb, just oatmeal, sweet potatoes, the typical, what we used to know, what we thought was healthy. And but then, my eating addiction, I was still eating a lot, but I was addicted to Splenda. I was addicted to these artificial sweeteners and stuff like that, which are horrible, right? So and aside from that, my nutritional aspect has changed a lot. But I lost all that weight. I was playing football, and then I sustained several injuries. So around the time that you met me, I had already been injured, but my body was still young. I was still to the point where I wasn't, I could still move around, but I had torn both my shoulders. My labrums were gone. I had a nerve injury in my neck, and I was still getting through it. And just after we stopped kind of working together, my body went into this is where I really gained a lot of weight back. So you met me around like 230, 240-ish, and then I shot up to almost 280, man, because the injuries caught up to me, and I couldn't move. I couldn't move, man. I was stuck. I would work out, and I would be in severe pain, laying in bed all day. And something I haven't really shared with publicly or with anybody, and this will probably be the first time I ever share it in this sort of format, is I have a myotonic muscle disorder. And it is, you ever seen those fainting goats on YouTube? Those goats that just fall over? I have that, and I have that in the human form.
Wow.
The goats don't faint. Their muscles just become paralyzed, and they can't uncontract, and they fall over. So it's called paramyotonia congenita, and this is something that I've had all my life. I can't be in cold weather, part of my struggle has been this, but also part of my adversity, and pushing through this, and being a competitive weightlifter and a football player with this disorder. It was hard, but and that's part of why I would have a lot of injuries, because your muscles cramp up, and then your muscle cramps up, but your ligaments and tendons want to keep moving, and so do your joints. And when the muscle cramps, everything else keeps moving, and muscles tear. So I sustained a lot of injuries from this disorder. And we met, I was around 18. By 21, 22, I was just blowing up, man. I was emotionally eating again. I was using drugs. I was going down the wrong path. And then, at 23, you knew him, my cousin that passed away.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that. I was shocked.
I know it was tough, and him and I were both making choices, and he passed away, and that's when we were making the wrong choices, man. So at that point, it was me or him, and that was where it all changed. That's where it really changed, where I realized I needed to get a hold of myself, get rid of the addictions, because all that leads up to the weight loss. Weight loss isn't because you're eating; it's more than that, right? Or I mean, weight gain. I'm sorry, not weight loss. It's more than just what you're putting in your mouth, man.
Sure.
It's what's in here,
yeah.
right? And since I've known you, you've always been about working out. But like you said yourself, you've struggled with your own, body dysmorphia or these things that are happening within. And that's where we really have to start tackling the issue. But yeah, I got up to around 280, man. And my changing point was in a drug rehab center.
Wow.
I went to rehab, and I realized how screwed up I was, man.
I would have never known that. You were just such a polite young man, fun. You, Hector, who's lost a lot of weight as well.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what was quite interesting? I went in to do that job at about 220 pounds. I got down to 185 pounds just from being outside, us running, and just sweating.
All day.
Yeah, a lot of you guys at that point in time were like holding your weight. And I was like, oh, I wish I...
What were we doing? We were eating Valdianos, and we were eating Taco Bell every night at 3 a.m. after getting off of work, and smoking pot 24/7, and
doing burgers all night. I was 40, hanging out with 18-year-olders. That's how nuts I was.
But you got a young soul, man. We can't deny that. I think you'll be 18 forever.
I hope so. I feel like that way. But yeah. You guys later lost I wanted to hold some of my mass. I just couldn't hold it. And genetics come into play too, right? I mean, that changed. I had,
absolutely.
Even though I was older. So yeah, that is like I said, I saw your transformation. I saw you gain that weight in between this, and then I saw you lose your weight, and your whole lifestyle has changed. It's almost like you're glowing compared to like when I knew you back then. Not that it was dark, but you just seem to have a whole, I guess you could say, atmosphere about you now. It's not just the way you look. It's kind of how your lifestyle is. Does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely. And I've felt it too. And this goes back to the mindset part of it, right? Like
Yeah.
getting our mind right. My mind wasn't right. I didn't love myself. I think that's the best way to put it. I think the strongest thing that we can have to get through things is our self-love, man.
Yeah.
Is finally realizing, like, hey, what are you doing to yourself? You're out here,
Absolutely.
putting stuff in your nose and taking pills and smoking and doing this and that. Well, what's good about that, And
Sure.
I realized that I had to do it for me. It's not for nobody else. What do I care what I look like to someone else? I think as you get a little older, what the hell does it matter what other people think? It's, I'm trying to live a long time for me, So
Absolutely. No one else is going to do it for you. No one else lives your life. You know what I mean? No one can
exactly.
take care of somebody else's health. I mean, you could take care of that person, but it's all on you, right? No one's going to do the push-ups for you. No one's going to, you know what I mean? You're eating the foods. You're the one who has to exercise.
Yeah. And this is something I knew. I mean, at 15 years old, I started competitive weightlifting.
Yeah.
At 17 years old, I was benching 495 pounds.
Yeah, you were a bull.
I was extremely strong.
You were.
But that's also what injured me, was all this like excessiveness, right? Because everything I did was always to the most that I could do it. Whether it was eating, whether it was not eating, dieting, lifting weights. So, at this turning point at 23 years old, sitting in this drug rehab center, smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, I looked around and I was in this place with all these crazy people, man.
Right.
Because it wasn't just for people on drugs; it was for people for major mental illnesses. And I look around and I see all these people chain smoking and doing the things that I was doing, but in extreme excess. And that's when I had my epiphany, man. I was like, this isn't me.
Right.
This isn't me. This doesn't define me. So that's when the mind started changing. And at that point, like I said, I was almost 280 pounds, man.
So you lost how much weight then? If you were 280, what did you lose then from that point?
Over almost 80 pounds, if not more than 80. And I don't even get on the scale anymore. Last time I got on the scale was under 200. I got the numbers out of here. I started measuring my health and my weight and things like that by how I felt and how I was looking. And I feel like when we try to measure it, it creates that sort of anxiety that we're trying to get away from.
Yeah.
When we try to put a number on it or try to say I need to be here, it's like, just do the best you can, is the way I see it.
It's an honest approach. You got to be honest with yourself.
Yep.
So let's get out of rehab now. Where did you go from there? Work-wise or health-wise? What? I've never gone to rehab. I know a lot of some of my closest family members. It either when they come out, it works out okay, or it goes in the shit, or even worse sometimes with a lot of people I've noticed too.
Yeah, mine was, I stopped doing drugs.
Okay.
I was, but I went in there. I was abusing, pharmaceuticals, and gotta love the medical system. I came out on more pills than I went in on. Right.
Right.
And that's when I realized I had to just change everything. I flushed everything, man. I flushed everything down the toilet. I quit the job I was at. I actually had a decent job despite all the crap I was doing. I was selling insurance. I was making good money, but I was sitting at a desk all day and I quit. And I went to work at LA Fitness.
Nice.
I was like, that's what saved me to begin with from being overweight when I was younger, was getting in the gym and working out. I'm like, I need to get back into that environment. And then throughout all this, I reconnected with with my original mentor that was the first person to introduce me to bodybuilding and weightlifting. I reconnected with them years later. We hadn't spoken in about in 4 years. I hadn't seen this guy. And we reconnected, man, and we started working out again. And
awesome.
This guy, he was he was a competitive bodybuilder, and at his peak, he was over 250, 260, solid muscle, lean. He was a big guy, and he got to that the wrong way too. And when I ran into him, Rich, the guy was $180. leaned out. Leaned out. He looks at me. He's like, what have you done to yourself? And he was brutally honest, which I love. You're like that. I'm like, we just, I was like, man, I was into some stuff. And, and he's like, you need to stop eating meat. That was the first thing he said to me. Right.
Really?
And my whole thing was always like, I would eat a 30-ounce London broil. That was my dinner. That's how I ate. I'm Cuban, man. We eat, fried steaks and pork chops and things like that. And also when I was in the rehab center, there was a lady there that was telling me the same thing. She was vegan, and she's like, you need to stop eating meat. You need to stop eating meat. It's bad for you. Okay. And, at that point, I'm like, the first thing I would always say is when, vegetarian, vegan, I'd be like, that's for pussies. That's for girls. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not doing that. That was always my take on it. Men got to eat their steaks. But, after that, I started on a plant-based journey, I guess you could say. And within a couple months, I dropped 40 pounds, man. I stopped eating meat, and I was eating more carbs than before. I was eating rice and beans still. I stopped eating the Taco Bell and the McDonald's and all the fast food. I did cut that out, man. I was really watching myself with the sugars and things like that. And this is, that's a key element for any diet.
Obviously, sugar's crazy.
Yeah, it's poison, man.
That's brutal.
But yeah, I lost 40 pounds, and I was also working out. But everything started changing, Rich. My skin started changing. My digestion started changing. I started to sleep again. I hadn't slept right in years. Wow. I started to sleep. And that's part of the reason I was taking like medications and doing drugs and stuff is, you can't sleep. But, I think when you can't sleep, your soul's not right. It has nothing to do with.
I couldn't agree more. Sleeping is the backbone to life. I don't care what anyone says.
It's everything, man.
It's everything.
They say I shoot for 10 hours. I shoot to sleep for up to 10 hours a day, and that's J-Lo's secret. So I figure I'll do the same.
I'm with you. I've done videos on sleeping.
She's doing pretty good, man.
LeBron too. It's all recovery, rejuvenate, especially if you work out hard. In my opinion, sleeping is. My father used to preach that to me all the time. You can tell someone who sleeps and who doesn't just by the way they look and by the way they act and energy. And so go on. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, here I am losing this weight. And at that point I quit the gym, and guess what? I went back to valet parking.
Really?
I was parking cars again, man, because that was the best, that was the best time of our life. It was
amazing for me. I did it twice. I did it as a high schooler. Then I ended up going back when I was 40. Yeah. And there was like 40 of you guys. And it was like a second coming of my youth.
Yeah. I love it. And that's what it. Yeah. I went back.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. I went back and it wasn't even the money. I was in a place where I needed to get my mind right. So I did something that really wasn't work to me. I'm like, this is just, I'm with the guys all day, and they were all young college kids.
It's a family fun. Yeah. It becomes a family, like a team again.
Yes. So, I went back to that. I was running cars again. I was eating good, and I started losing the weight, man. I started losing the weight. And, at that point is when I decided to get a real estate license.
Okay.
And because I didn't only want to better myself, my health, it was all, my mindset was changing. So I'm like, I need to make some money. I need to do stuff. I need to do something with my life. I love the valet park and I'm having fun, but I need to be successful, man.
Yeah, that's a filler kind of job. You know what I mean? It's a filler, fun. Yeah, or hard time, trying to get some cash.
Yeah, a quick reboot, right?
Yeah, you're not going to be doing that for a career unless you started running your own garages. That's your interest.
I own it, man.
Yeah, like your cousin was kind of doing it. He was a lifer, right? And he loved that industry, and he went to the next level of it. You may have not had that interest.
Man, I'll tell you what, a couple days before he passed away, we actually opened up a lot downtown. We opened up a parking lot downtown. Okay. And I was working with him on that, and that was really about to take off. A downtown parking lot, you're pulling it in every night, man. It's almost residual, and you're not doing anything because you got a parking attendant that you're paying minimum wage to stand there, and you collect. But unfortunately, that all went kaput when he did, but
Yeah.
but he was a great teacher for me. He was an excellent teacher for me. So, and he's, a lot of my motivation, a lot of what I've done in my journey was from him. But yeah, I got the real estate license. I got into real estate for about 2 years.
Okay.
And but that's when I left to Nicaragua, man. That's when I left to Central America. Still on this weight loss journey, right? So I'm still very health conscious. My mind was there, but I was like, all right, I got back into the corporate world, but that's I'm a little bit stuck right now. So I went to Nicaragua where I built the surf lodge.
Yeah, that was.
And,
I love this story. Keep
yeah.
going. Because you kind of
So,
get stuff a lot of people wish they could do or dream about. My buddy who's a lawyer thinks he's going to open a Sea-Doo shop in like South Florida is his dream. I'm like, he could be a judge in Chicago, but he wants to go. You know what I mean? I'm just using.
yeah.
You went and did something that was no one would expect.
And that's what my cousin wanted to do. That passed away. He dreamt of building a hostel in Costa Rica or Nicaragua. He had traveled all through there before he passed away, and he always incepted that into my head. So I was actually when I took my first trip to Nicaragua, and this comes back to the recovery and rest part. I was at a job, a real estate job, where I basically worked 24 hours, 8 days a week, man. And I had a lot of stress, and I was fainting. I was passing out. Wow. I was passing out, and finally I passed out. I hit my head. I cut my head open, and I went to the hospital. I got every test done. MRI, CAT scan, every brain scan, stool samples, everything. They couldn't find anything. The doctor is just like, you're stressed, right?
Yeah.
So I quit the job.
Right.
I quit the job. I left a ton of money on the table, and I walked out, man. And I left to Nicaragua. I went with a buddy of mine who I actually built the surf lodge with. We went to Nicaragua, and I loved how ghetto it was, because it's like the Wild West. You can do anything you want out there, right? Yeah. It's like freedom. It's like going back in time. Yeah, man.
And it wasn't like you had kids or anything, or you're not married or anything. You were just living
it was,
you wanted to live.
25, 26 years old at the time. And, I said, screw it. I went, and we went out there and we bought farmland, right? Then we came back, and we quickly realized that we weren't farmers. So we're like, all right, we
I got you.
I didn't do much with that, but then we bought a little piece of land on the beach, right? And it's a pretty remote area. There's some civilization about an hour away, if you want to call it civilization. But this is a place where you have wild horses, wild cows, pigs just walking on the beach, and we to make a really could be long story short, we I came back and I worked again for another year. I saved up some money. I bought a house. I fixed the whole house up. I flipped it. I took all that money and I went to Nicaragua. I left. I sold everything. I put my whole life in 2 duffel bags and left the country, man.
Wow.
To Central America. The unknown. Everybody's like, "Oh, what are you gonna?" Off the grid, no plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not the kind of place you make plans.
Gypsy style. You know what I mean? That's what I call it.
I was out. And so was my buddy Howard, who we're still really close. He's like a brother to me. But we went out there and we built this surf lodge, which was the test of that was a test in itself, because you're out here in a place unknown where you don't know anybody. And our original builder, we gave him all the money for the materials. He started the project, and this guy had and then we were very well calculated. We're young guys, man. This wasn't money from mom or dad. We worked for this. We saved up everything we had, and we went out there like we were launching the space shuttle. This was a very well calculated move. And this guy ended up stealing tens of thousands of dollars from us in materials. He just never came back. And not to mention, there was a political revolution that happened in the middle of our construction, where there was it's reminiscent to now. There was a week where you couldn't go anywhere. There was no food on the shelves. Gasoline was $10 a gallon there. So we went through this whole thing.
Sure.
We're building this surf lodge, and I was laying bricks. I learned how to mix cement and lay bricks and help run my electrical. I contracted the whole place without a construction background. We installed the plumbing ourselves. We did floors. We really learned, man. It was a hell of an adventure. Yeah. But out there is where I met Grace Van Berkham of Glow, and I was plant-based, and at the time I planned on also building a vegan cafe, and those plans changed. But when I met Grace, she owned the only other vegan place in the entire country.
Wow.
Being plant-based is, and we'll dive a little bit into that here shortly too, about my thoughts on plant-based and how it affects the body. But I met her, and we hit it off, man. And then I joined Team Glow, which is her organization. And this is where my nutrition completely changed. This is where I thought I was plant-based, but I wasn't. I was vegan. I wasn't plant-based. There's a big difference, because there's vegans that stuff their face with Oreo cookies and are 350 pounds and have no idea what nutrition is, right? Or eating rice all day, vegan macaroni and cheeses, the processed stuff that comes in the bags. That's not healthy, man. That's vegan, but doesn't mean it's healthy, right? But she rocked my world, and showed me what real nutrition was. She's a holistic nutritionist, a natural nutritionist. And she helps people heal their cancer. She's reversed her father's Alzheimer's. And I saw this firsthand. I've witnessed this stuff firsthand. And, you hear about these doctors and these nutritionists that do this, but you never really meet them. And here I was, and we started working together. She does retreats all over the world. So I actually traveled the world teaching people how to do this. Sharing my story, helping them with their weight loss, and learning new modalities. I was always training my friends. I had been a personal trainer since I was like 16, taking people and showing them and coaching them, and here I was learning about the ultimate form of cellular nutrition, because she teaches down to the cellular level. Right, we talk about things like autophagy and things that allow your body to reproduce in the way it's supposed to, right?
Wow.
Not just what to eat, when to eat, what to combine.
Sure.
Making sure you're getting the proper enzymes so that you digest. And this is when things started to click for me. When I stopped eating like garbage, my mind started working more efficiently. And I'm sure you know this, and a lot of people don't, but your gut, your digestive health is directly linked to your mental health, right? If your gut, if your digestion is not balanced, is not well, your mind isn't working. Over 70% of your serotonin is produced in your gut, your digestive system. So if you're putting unhappy stuff in your body, your mind's going to be unhappy. You're not going to work effectively up here. I mean, you can feel it, man. If you eat a plate of 20 chicken wings, you feel like garbage. You just kind of sit back. You got to unbutton your pants. You're just in this, right?
Yeah. And the next day, it affects you not only at that moment, but it carries on throughout the day.
Yep. And, it all started coming together for me, and learning under her was incredible, because I started to notice the changes in my body again. And, earlier you mentioned you're glowing, and this is, it's Team Glow.
I think I've seen that, but I didn't put the
it's funny, but yeah, it's incredible how I started learning about this. And I was living there with her. I did so for almost 2 years, but we traveled the whole world, man. I went all the way to Guam. I was in Korea. I was in Mauritius. We were in 5-star resorts teaching people how to eat. I was, we'll talk a little bit about block therapy here shortly, and what I practice and teach now. But I was doing trainings on that, and just on this incredible journey, and all the while still losing weight, still taking care of myself, and being able to live my life like that, which was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that was incredible. And I was traveling a ton all over North America all the time. Then I was looking at you, and you were traveling. And I was mainly in the States and Canada for the most part, maybe Hawaii and Alaska and stuff. But you were in some beautiful locations. You just looked like you were having the time of your life. Like you just really, like if somebody looked like they loved what they were doing, it was you, right? The lifestyle you were leading was something you loved, and you always wanted.
Truly incredible experiences. Always on the beach.
Yeah.
Always on a beach. I think everybody wants to be there. I'm ready for some mountains or something. The beach was, well, I did do some mountains. I was in North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
Did some teaching up there and stuff. And, but yeah, you know, this all coming together, this journey was the catalyst to all this was my cousin passing away, me going to rehab, me wanting to better myself. And, you know, when your mindset changes, the things that you're looking for, they're looking for you.
Yeah.
Right. That's something I truly and deeply believe, that what you seek seeks you. And I was seeking this learning, this experience. I was seeking this, and it was all coming to me. I wanted to travel, and travel found me.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to have this freedom, this off the grid life, and it found me. It just kind of like lays itself out for you, but you got to want it. You got to seek it, and you got to imagine yourself there, and you got to imagine the feeling of being there before you're even there.
Yeah.
And the same thing comes to the transformation. When you look in the mirror and you want your body's not ever going to look how you expect it or want it to look, right? And I think we both know this. You could probably relate, but it is getting there mentally. You know, like saying like, okay, the way I do it is, you know, I'd love to have these big lats and a tapered waist and my pecs, everything, but that's not my genetics, man. I've always been a heavier set, more of a girthy person, I guess you could say, you know, a husky kid, right?
Sure.
And that's okay, but that doesn't mean that I can't look good in my eyes, right?
Absolutely.
So you start loving yourself. First, you got to love yourself for how you look, whether you're fat, you're skinny, you're big or small. You got to love yourself.
Absolutely, because you beat yourself up.
Yeah.
I mean, you're emotionally and physically a lot of times beating the shit out of yourself.
Yep.
On many levels, right?
And when it comes to and you know, I hate the word diet. It's lifestyle, right? Yeah. It's lifestyle, man. Because eat your chocolate cake here and there. If you're gonna eat a chocolate cake, eat your chocolate cake, but don't eat a chocolate cake every day. You know, for dessert every day. Don't make it an addiction, you know. Sure. And that's what I always believe. But you know, back to the mindset thing and the weight loss and this whole journey I had been going on. You know, it also made me more self-aware of my body and more loving of my body.
Yes.
And I think that is the ultimate, you know, tool for weight loss or transformation. Is just picturing it, like feeling it. It's not even picturing it, feeling it. Feeling lighter on your toes, feeling what it feels like to run 4 miles, 5 miles without being out of breath. You know, just having this feeling of strength.
Yes.
You know, and just and being empowered by that. And I think that's what a lot of people, young men, both young and old, women as well. You know, everybody needs that.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to teach now. That's what I feel is the catalyst to the weight loss, to the transformation, the being able to light that fire under someone's ass and have them take off.
Yeah. Yeah. I do a lot of videos, as you know. I talk about all the things you're talking about, and I love it. Back to being yourself, you have to start with yourself. Also, if you can't love yourself, how are you going to love anything else, right? Including other people or anything. Man.
And how's anybody going to love you if you don't love you? That's
exactly what I was going to say. Like, it starts with, because I always had a problem with myself. If I was, you know, there's always going to be somebody bigger than you, stronger than you, faster than you, right? Somebody healthier than you. There's going to always be a new diet. There's always going to be all this type of shit, right? But you got to find out what works best for you and learn to be open-minded and evolve, change. You're going to constantly be changing from one year, actually from day to day, from month to month, week to week. So you have to accept these changes. Also, things are going to be coming into your life, like say Corona and all these different things. You have to adapt and just move forward. And you're going to have good days, bad days, good years, bad years, but you've got to fight through those, and you're not alone also. So you're also someone like you're giving a lot of, how would I say it? You're giving a lot of yourself and being honest, and other people will see that honesty, and you don't sometimes realize the impact, like even you doing this podcast, even if you impact one person, how many others you could impact 100 people. It's like a cliche, but you know, your life
But it's the ripple effect, right? It's that ripple
Exactly.
effect that we set out. I'm sure you've seen that movie Pay It Forward,
Yeah.
where the little
Yes.
kid
The
drawing
little
on the
kid,
board, doing all his thing. That's so real, man.
yeah.
Because if people want to spread their message, people naturally think about it. Anybody who even if it's somebody that gets a new pair of shoes and it's a certain name brand, they're like, oh, these Nikes are the best shoes ever. You got to get these Nikes, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you get, not sure how much that's going to better someone's life, but if someone's losing weight, we were talking about Hector earlier, and he's out there spreading his message constantly, and the other day you did a podcast with Jason Martinez, who is an absolute brother of ours, and
Yes.
I got so much love for that guy, and I know you do, and everybody that meets him does. But Jason, no matter what message he's trying to spread, he is always spreading the utmost positivity and trying to better other people's lives. He's selfless.
Absolutely.
It's not for him. He doesn't do it for him.
Absolutely.
He's doing it for us,
Yeah.
And I think we can all get to that point. And like you're saying, it's contagious. It's that pay it forward. It's infectious, man.
Yeah.
It's infectious. The positivity, we're going through this time. We're talking about, all this virus and all this stuff going on. The most detrimental thing in this whole experience is the negativity. Is the media creating this sickness in us, which isn't the virus, it's the fear, right?
Yep.
But what we need to perpetuate, where we're the people on the ground floor. We are the soldiers, man. We are the spiritual soldiers out here fighting the real war that need to be out there talking to the youth and talking to young people and spreading the positivity and creating that, just like what you're doing, all your talks, everything you're making videos on, man, you're trying to help people. It's not even for you. At the end of the day, it's going to do more for other people than it is for you. And I think we all need to have that mindset.
Yeah, I used to go for honesty. All I kind of want to do is help people, but I also had to realize I had to help myself, right? Too. A lot of people are great at spreading the word, as you know, or whatever you're spreading, your information, but they don't always abide or live by it either, right? They're telling you what you should be doing and not doing it, like secretively. But I want to, because I'm 50 years old now. I went through so much throughout the years, and I'm like, people would always ask me certain things. I'm like, I never thought I'd have a YouTube page or a podcast, but the more I did it, the more I liked it. And I also love people like yourself, because all I'm doing is constantly learning. And I think a lot of people aren't open-minded and they don't want to learn from others, or they want to get stuck in, I don't care if it's a workout routine, a certain diet, certain lifestyle. But as you get older, I'm telling you that the more open-minded you are, and the more you start understanding what other people are going through, the better your life is going to be. Yep. I think we all get consumed in our own life, right? We all think we're the only ones who have all these problems. You got to realize there's so many other people out there that are going through so much. Like, I never knew you had all these issues with weight, or I never knew what you went through, drugs or all these things, right?
Yeah. Or even, I always, when I'm having symptoms of my muscular condition, right?
Yeah.
Which is it's no easy task to deal with. It's so it affects me in every day. I wake up with it. Being in a room temperature house is too cold for me. My muscles start to cramp up. So, it's something I've lived with. But every time that I get that symptom and I start beating myself up for it, I like to think of those guys that you see in the Olympics with no legs, running marathons.
Absolutely.
with metal on their, with metal legs, or people that are, clean and jerking weight that have no bottom part of their body. They're cut off at the torso and they're lifting weights. And I'm like, I don't even have it bad, man. I got it good.
Oh my God. We don't realize all the good that we have. We always look at the bad. I swear to God, a lot of times and I don't know if that's programmed in us. My daughter had a liver transplant when she was younger. So I spent almost about a year in and out of children's hospitals. One time I lived at one for a couple months. I left there and I was almost 30 years old. And I said, I had all these opportunities to go and do whatever I wanted to do, however I wanted to do them. And the only one who was holding me back was myself. And now you look at all these children, they may never even get the opportunity to go do anything. Yep. They may pass away. They have illnesses. That kind of straightened me up very quickly. You really got to understand that you have been given physical gifts and you can do so many things with those physical gifts. You haven't found your gift sometimes either. You haven't discovered them, right? And some people never do. But I can assure you, someone like yourself and many others, you can do incredible things. You can go live the life you want to lead to a certain degree. It may not happen very quickly. It may take years or decades, but you can get there, hopefully, you know.
Yeah, and it's constantly putting in the work, right?
Yeah.
You got to constantly put in the work. It's you know, I think there's definitely divine timing, right place, right time. Some call it luck. I don't really believe in luck. I think you make your own situation. As you know,
Gotcha.
you cook your own meal. You know, you know what you're putting in it. You're putting in the ingredients. You're doing stuff. You're putting in the work, man. You know, you're like I said before. You're just attracting into your life what you're looking for. You're looking for it. It's looking for you. It's going to come eventually. You know, you see a lot of stories about actors that don't make it till they're in their 50s.
Absolutely.
You know, people make it when they're older. You can't give up on it, man. You can't get. It's like when the whole. So when I was building my surf lodge, in Nicaragua, we ran out of money, man.
Yeah.
That's what we had to lay bricks.
Yeah.
We had to lay our own bricks. And it got built. We didn't know how it was going to happen. Me and my buddy didn't know how we were going to do it, right? And I think this happens a lot.
Absolutely.
I think this happens a lot in life. And this is just one very, you know, almost minute example compared to the other things we've had to go through. But we were like, we don't have employees now. We're out of money. We started laying bricks, man. We started putting stuff up. Eventually the money comes. Money is, you know, just an energy. It's an energy transfer kind of. It's not really real, right? Money is just printed, and it's a big limiting factor for a lot of people. But you know, we got it done, man. We didn't give up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what it's about when we give up on ourselves. You know, when I was in the rehab center, you remember I used to smoke cigarettes. We used to sit up at the valet stand and just smoke cigarettes nonstop. And
Sure.
the reason that I quit smoking cigarettes is because I looked around and I saw how ridiculous everybody looked smoking their cigarettes. And I was like, why am I even doing this? This is bad for me. Quit cold turkey. Never did it again.
Wow.
And that's kind of how I'm at, you know.
Yeah.
It's not the physical, it's not the withdrawal, it's not that. It's getting through that barrier in our head that you have to do something. And like you said, being open-minded and understanding, adapting is such an important part of life, you know.
Yeah.
When so I moved back to Florida, right?
Okay.
And one of the things I missed the most about being in civilization was the gym. I'm here for 2 weeks. I got my LA Fitness membership. I'm at the gym. And this whole thing happens, and now the gym's been closed for you know, over a month now. So I've just been working out at home. You know, the adaptation has to happen. I ordered some, you know, a little set of resistance bands, and I've been doing that. And this is a really good example of what happens in life, right? I got the resistance bands. I had never trained with resistance bands, really. I was always been a with weights kind of guy. And I like the resistance bands more than I like weights.
Evolving and changing. Yeah.
And, you know, in the adversity, you find success. And that's what it's about. You know, that's what happens to people that become successful in their later years, is they constantly kept evolving and adapting and not giving up. And then you find something, you're like, oh, this works a lot better.
Experimenting. I talk about it all the time with fitness. If I've been working out my entire life at weights, I still like them, but maybe somebody who has tried weights, they don't like them. Try yoga. You don't like yoga? Try Pilates. Keep moving forward. Maybe you like playing basketball. I don't know. But the more open-minded you are, especially with fitness and trying different things, because a lot of us, as you know, will go to a gym, say 3-5 times a week, and that's all you do. On your off days, go try something else. Go hike. Go surf. Go rock climb. Sometimes there's things out there that you'll end up finding that you are better than what you're doing now. But people, again, don't want to experiment. And learn from others. If you got friends, colleagues, family members that are doing different things, I don't care if it's mountain biking, go try it once with them. You know, when I lived in Carlsbad, California, that in San Diego, they were all, you know, they're doing triathlons, marathons. It's going on out there constantly. One day I'd be on the beach with a bike, and the next thing I'm in a mountain bike. I'm mountain biking, just saying. And then the next time I'm surfing with my cousin, then you know, a week later, we're hiking. I'm just using those for example. And that's all happening in a couple of weeks, but I'm always trying different things. And even if I don't necessarily like it, I still got a great workout in, and I experimented. I tried it. Most people don't try anything, you know, or they'll just try a gym, for instance. So
That's how I found block therapy.
yeah, let's get into that. Let's jump into
So
this.
this is, it's so fascinating. This whole block therapy thing for me, it changed my life, man. Because we're as weightlifters, or people that work out in the gym, I should say. I don't quite know how to categorize that because everything's changed to like CrossFit. This whole it's all new, right? This
Yeah.
whole, I don't, I was just looking up to like Arnold Schwarzenegger and doing bodybuilding stuff when this CrossFit wasn't even around when I was lifting, when I first started lifting,
Yeah.
right? Whole
Sure.
thing. But I never knew what fascia was or what the fascial system was. I never, ever had really focused on that. I had heard of it. You hear of myofascial release, you hear of, the foam roller and stuff like that, but I didn't know what the fascial system was.
Yeah, I don't think most people do still to this day. I was just talking to him about what my girlfriend, she had no idea what block therapy is, right?
Yep.
And they even see the blocks. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want you to describe too how you got into it and how you use it. There you go. Now you do a wooden one where I don't think a lot of people see the wooden one, but if, for instance, you go to Lululemon, you go to Dick's, they see the blocks, right? They're usually blue, red, and sometimes you'll see people using them in the gym. But a lot of people,
they're used for like props, right? To help you. They're usually like a block. When you hear a block, you think of a yoga block, right? Like what you're saying, those foam.
That's what I'm saying.
Block.
That's what you would.
This is totally different. This has nothing to do with helping you stand or put your hands on anything. And let's get into the fascia real quick.
Yeah,
let's describe what fascia is, and then I'm going to explain what this block does. Because the first time Grace actually introduced me to block therapy, and she brought me one. Sure. A friend of ours in the Bahamas is a block therapy teacher.
Right.
And Grace brought me a block, and I'm like, you think this piece of wood is going to take away my chronic pain of over a decade, right? That was my thing, because that's really what I was always, after the weight loss, I was always trying to get rid of this pain in my body, man. Not just from my disorder, but these injuries. You know what a weightlifting injury can do.
I know, absolutely. At my age, I have damaged my body, especially someone like you, because we've lifted heavy weights continuously. So our tendons, joints, and muscles are destroyed. We're almost like a professional athlete. If you've lifted as long as I have, by the time you hit 50 years old, you've done hundreds of thousands of squats, curling, tries, right? So your body's damaged no matter what, especially if you pushed yourself. So go ahead.
So anyway, I before I even knew what fascia was, Grace brought me the block, and from her doing block therapy classes, she was like, oh, you need to try it out. And she kind of did a class with me, and I was like, oh, I feel a little relaxed. My shoulder doesn't hurt as much, which is huge for me, because I had 24/7 pain in my shoulder.
Me too.
24/7, right? You know how it is, and I think
it's my rotator stuff. It's brutal. Even standing,
a lot of people have it.
Right.
So, but here's the thing: the way that fascia works, fascia is a connective tissue that spans your entire body. It touches everything. You know, when you're eating chicken and you peel back the skin and there's that little clear layer there?
Yeah.
That's fascia. But this fascia doesn't only go over your muscles. It goes between your organs. It attaches to the fascia all over your body, right?
Okay.
And they're little tiny tubes made of collagen, and energy and light and information transfer through these tubes. Your fascia is involved in every movement that you do. Wow. And most people don't know this. It was disregarded in science for years. But now there's major fascia teachers out there. Thomas Myers is huge. He's the author of Anatomy Trains, and he teaches on fascia, right? Okay. Because what happens is when your fascia is not properly hydrated, it's you've been doing a repetitive movement for too long, it starts to grip. Right? It grips and it holds and it binds within your body. It can bind to other fascia. It likes to bind to bones. Your fascia likes to grab onto hard surfaces, and your bones are a hard surface in your body. So when this fascia grips, we're talking about up to 2,000 pounds per square inch of force gripping in your body, right? So, what I started learning, and I had tried the block therapy, still didn't know what the fascia was. I did it with Grace, right? And as you know, we did these worldwide retreats. Teachers would come to Nicaragua to Grace's place, Grace's Living Oasis, and people would do retreats there. We had that block therapy. The block therapist, her name's Rachel, who introduced me to this whole world. I did it for a week straight for 3 hours a day.
Wow.
Rich, after the first day, Rich, my mind was blown. I got on that thing and I worked around my shoulder, my ribs, and I started like falling asleep because for the first time since my shoulder injury, I was feeling open there. I wasn't feeling the pain. And I just kind of got my body started getting sleepy. It's because it finally relaxed from that, right? So I started doing all this research. I couldn't believe it. This is incredible. I've been looking, this is the damn holy grail, right? That's how I felt. Like I've been trying to get rid of this for years.
Sure.
And I started doing research on fascia. And at that point, I decided to go on the path of becoming a certified block therapy instructor under the mentorship of Deanna Hansen, who's the creator of this practice. And I started learning how fascia works. And my mind blown, because here's what happened, man. My problem wasn't in the shoulder. And I also had this nagging lower back pain down in like the T12 area that no chiropractor could get rid of. Nobody could do it. And I'd throw my back out and I'd be done for a week. I'd be in bed for a week, just,
Sure.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
My problem wasn't in my back. My problem wasn't in my shoulder. My problem was in my right leg.
Wow.
My lower right leg. Right. So, but why was that problem there? And Deanna was able to really point this out to me. But your fascia connects in your whole body. So for example, this is my shoulder moving, right?
Yep.
A lot of people have rotator cuff injuries.
Yep.
Some people don't even know it. You don't even feel it. You don't even know. Right?
Most people that lift weights have it.
Exactly. And it's overuse injury, right? It's overuse.
Of course.
A lot of people have scoliosis. A lot of people have disc issues in their spine, but you don't go get checked out until you have pain, right?
Right.
Pain is a communication device within your body that tells you something's not right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But our brain gets rid of it. Our brain feels it and gets rid of it. It does its best as can to process it. But when it becomes too much, you go to the doctor. The doctor tells you, oh, you got the torn rotator cuff. Let's cut you open. Let's clean you up and we'll fix it. You come out and 9 out of 10 times people are still in pain.
Yeah.
Because they're not fixing the actual problem, which is restrictions in the fascia. So and they're actually creating more scar tissue when they do these procedures.
Or cortisone shots, right?
Oh,
just throw that in as well.
That put me over the edge. But anyway, when you have, let's say you have fascial restrictions here on your rib cage, the fascia is attaching to your bone, right? This is my range of motion. If something's grabbing onto my rib cage, this is now my range of motion. Yeah. And that's going to further tear your shoulder because it's just trying to keep moving. So the actual problem is where the restriction is, not where you're feeling the pain.
Gotcha.
Right? So, and when it comes to getting rid of fascial restrictions, people try to do it with foam rollers. People try to do it with hard objects like tennis balls and things like that. And you can feel it. When you come over a restricted area, you intuitively know what you're feeling. It can be on bone. Sometimes over the muscle and stuff like that. But, I started working in areas like my rib cage, right? Hard bony areas. And you lay on this block on your rib cage and you'll feel it, man. Started working on that, started working on my leg, and these pains started to go away. Right. And I don't want to call them miracles, but I have taught people things that have changed their life completely. And I'll kind of dive into that here shortly. But, and it's also the breathing aspect of it. Part of this is not just using this block as a tool. It's learning how to breathe again, learning how to use your diaphragm. Your fascia, just like water, when water stops moving, when a water molecule stops moving, it freezes, right? When your fascia can't move freely in your body, it freezes. And that's what creates the adhesion and the restriction that stops something else from working. So, I started learning about this. And I started learning how to breathe into my diaphragm again. Why is that so important, right? Why you hear all these spiritual practices, when you're lifting weights, you try to like align your breath with how you're lifting and stuff like that. But if you're not using your diaphragm, most people breathe in their chest like this. That's not how you breathe. We have to breathe into our belly. But if you're wearing a weightlifting belt, you can't breathe into your belly. You're doing more harm by wearing a weightlifting belt than using the natural weightlifting belt that's in your body, your pelvic floor, your transverse abdominis, your obliques, your quadratus laborum. That is your weightlifting belt within your body. Yeah. And if you're wearing a belt that's doing the job for you, you're restricting your breathing. But you know, we could probably do a 3-hour podcast on this stuff. But
Yeah.
you know, the breathing is the most important aspect, because breath brings heat into the body. If you're only breathing into your chest, you're using a little space heater. When you breathe into your belly, you're igniting a furnace in your body that melts away restriction. So what we do in the block therapy is, and let's talk about the block real quick too, right? This
Yeah.
is it's made out of cedar wood. It has a very similar density to your bone,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
So and I want you to think about this too, before we really describe what we're doing here on the block. You can't tickle yourself, right?
Right.
But somebody else can come right away and you start moving and being ticklish.
Sure.
You're ticklish in areas in which your body is trying to protect very vital stuff, your organs, right? You're ticklish on your inner thigh because you have arteries there, you have your lymphatic system there. You're ticklish in your armpit because that is also where you have lymph nodes, where you have arteries that run through your ribs. When you're ticklish on the ribs, because that is protecting all of your organs.
Gotcha.
Right? So ticklish has nothing to do with being funny or laughing. It's very uncomfortable, actually, when you're getting tickled.
Sure.
Your body is reacting to a threat, right?
Okay.
So when and block therapy is a self-care practice. So when we can do something to ourselves, our body is more accepting. It's easier persuaded to relax, right? Which is what
Gotcha.
we want. We inevitably want to be in a relaxed state, obviously. So block therapy is done for you to relax. So when we use an organic material like this block, this is an organic material, your body recognizes that. Your body knows that this is an organic material. That's like when you go to the beach and you feel great. You don't know why. You're in nature. You're feeling good, man. Your body is made of that. So there's science actually behind this as to like earthing. I don't know if you've ever heard of earthing, where you put your feet in the ground and
Okay.
you're basically charging up, right? You're
Yes.
receiving energy. You're receiving electric currents.
You're like with one with the earth, kind of flowing.
Exactly.
Right.
You're one with the block. This is organic. This comes from a tree. We're made out of the same shit that this block is made out of.
Okay.
We on a molecular level, man.
Sure.
So the combination of using an organic material that's similar to the density of your bone, with the proper pressure against let's say I'm working a fascia restriction in my hand, right? Which we do everything. We do the face, the feet, we block everything. Let's say I'm doing this, right?
Okay.
First of all, I'm trusting myself. Or if it's going in my rib cage, if somebody else put this in your ribs, you would immediately try to get it off. Your mind, you don't even think about it. Your mind will push it off. But you laying on it, you're calm, you're relaxed, you're not fighting it.
You're in control.
You're in control. You're doing it to yourself, just like the whole tickling thing. You can't tickle yourself, so
Right.
you're in control. You're laying on the organic material. Your body recognizes that. When you lay on a foam roller or a foam block or a hard plastic ball, your body knows that is not like it. Your body doesn't resonate with it. So it automatically will start to tense up. And I've also done a lot of body work as a massage therapist. And every time you go to touch somebody's hips or their ribs, they jerk. And I'm sure you've had massages, you've had body work, you jerk.
Yes.
If you do it to yourself, you don't. So that's the importance of doing this to yourself. And that's what I teach. I teach how to do it to yourself. So we're getting into these fascial restrictions. Let's say we're laying on the ribs here, right? We're laying on the ribs where a lot of fascia starts to restrict. Next is the breath.
Yeah.
And this is the most important part, man. You can lay on the block. The breath is what removes the toxins from the body. When fascia restricts, not only is the fascia restricted, it takes nerves with it. It blocks your ability to detox fat. It blocks up your lymphatic system. If you're not breathing right, your lymphatic system isn't being stimulated, because when you breathe into your belly with your diaphragm, it stimulates your lymphatic system.
Like you're singing, right? You're saying get way down there. Like, how people talk about when they sing, it comes from way down.
From the diaphragm.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right? The diaphragm. So you're kind of almost.
When you breathe, you should be pulling breath into your belly. You shouldn't breathe like this. your chest shouldn't come up. That breath should be going into your belly.
Gotcha.
When you're an infant, one of the first things you learn how to do is how to use your diaphragm to create stability in your core so you can move. Then you spend your rest of your life forgetting about it, you know.
Sure, it becomes
But
natural.
yeah, and when you're not breathing into that diaphragm, you're also collapsing in your core because you're not breathing, and you're collapsing in the core. The rib cage starts coming down, shoulders come forward, posture's compromised. I mean, it's a whole horrible chain reaction.
Gotcha.
But when you bring that breath into the body along with the proper pressure against a restriction in your fascia, your fascial system, you begin to melt away the restriction.
And you're
The
laying on
breath,
top of this usually, right? So the block, right, is
correct.
on the
So
ground, you're laying on it at all times, not where you're
you'd be
pressing it against you. So
exactly.
people are
You're
listening.
almost in it's almost in of a restorative take on stuff. Like you're in and it hurts. It hurts like hell,
Because all your
right?
body weight is pressing on this, correct?
For the most part, depends on the position, but we are
Okay.
looking for the pain, and your breath is always your guide, right? You only
Gotcha.
go as far as you can breathe. If you're and it's like if you're driving or you're in a stressful situation, road rage, whatever, notice your breath isn't right. If your boss is stressing you out at work and you're not breathing, you're like, you can't even get words out because that breath is not right. So restoring the breath is huge in all this, and bringing that heat into the body, you know. And this, you know, practicing block therapy translates into stress relief, and the benefits are limitless basically. But you know, getting the lymphatic system working again, and this is why it's so important, your lymphatic system. There are doctors out there curing HIV. Obviously, you know, pharmaceutical companies aren't going to promote this, but there are doctors out there curing HIV, Rich, by properly stimulating the lymphatic system. By
Wow.
getting your lymphatic system
Yeah.
is the sewer drain of your body. That's where your body pushes out toxins and disease, and this isn't even, you know, they talk about this in anatomy classes and in school, doctors know about it, but they don't put a focus on it.
Mm,
They give you a pill and tell you not to worry about it. You
sure.
know, especially in a time like this, if you have a virus in your body and your lymphatic system is clogged, it's restricted somewhere, it's not going to work. You're going to be sick. If your lymphatic system is clogged, you're going to stay fat.
Mm,
If you're not breathing, and your breath, just like you poop and pee and you
yeah.
expel toxins through your poop and pee, your breath, when you breathe, when you exhale, toxins are coming out. You can't see them, but toxins are coming out from your breath. Your
Gotcha.
lungs are filters. They filter things and you breathe it out. You spit it back out.
Mm,
So that's why the breath is so important, right? It's as important, if not more important,
mm.
than pooping and peeing. And for weight loss, there's been numerous studies done by prestigious universities that have shown how weight loss is connected to your breathing,
I believe it.
which is incredible.
Yeah.
You know, it's mind blowing. It really is something that and we have to get right. So part of this block therapy practice is to get the breath working right. Is to start breathing, to start detoxing out restriction. You know, if I'm loosening up my fascia, let's say, you can have fascia that's blocking you from losing weight, right?
Gotcha.
How many people you know that have dieted forever, man, and they still have the you know the wheel around their belly. They still have that belly, right?
Sure.
And they can't get rid of it because there's a restriction in their body that's not allowing them to get rid of that.
Mm, gotcha.
Cellulite, for example, right?
Yeah.
This is a really good example of a fascial restriction. Cellulite, I'm sure you've seen some pretty thick girls out there, bigger girls. It doesn't affect guys as much as it does girls, but guys do get it. But let's say you see a thicker, you know, more heavy set woman, zero cellulite, right? You can see a very skinny girl that has cellulite. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the weight. It has to do with the tissue, your connective tissue, your fascia gripping under the skin and pulling and causing dimples in the skin. So this practice even removes cellulite. I've helped people remove varicose veins. People go into surgery to get rid of varicose veins. They get them cut and altered and stretched. I've had a client that they completely disappeared. And she had it her whole life. Her father had it. Genetics do play a role in it, but that doesn't mean we can't change, right?
Yeah.
I had a guy that used an inhaler every day of his life, Rich. Every day of his life. I had him for 2 classes and he stopped using the inhaler.
That's
Because
amazing.
we opened up the fascia that was restricting his breathing around his lungs.
Wow.
We restored diaphragmatic breathing. And within 2 classes, he was running and not using an inhaler. And those are one-offs. You know what I mean? That's just things that are results of this. This is a really interesting one. It's a men's health issue. It's called Peyronie's disease. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's bent penis.
Dennis Rodman style when it broke.
Well, I don't know about that. But
no, I don't know.
Literally,
I never heard of that. I don't think
it bends like this.
I forgot about it.
So
okay.
It's very interesting. I had never heard about it either till a client approached me, and we blocked. Right, I gave specific instruction on how to block, and also how to do some body work in there and apply and breathe. Lo and behold, it fixed itself.
Wow.
It wasn't a total fix, and this is something that there's no cure for. There is no cure for this. Lo and behold, it started to correct itself. And we do facelifts with the block therapy. Wrinkles, things like this are being caused because things are pulling in your face. As people get older, one eye starts to become lower than the other. I'm sure you see it. Old people start to come forward like this. Those are restrictions in their body. That's all fascia that's gripping and pulling you and staying where it is. And if we don't work on these restrictions, it affects us in so many ways, So we're restoring lymphatic flow. We're restoring the proper breath to help all these things. And then on top of that, we're getting rid of restriction, which inevitably helps with pain, which is why I did it. So it's quite fascinating, man. This practice is something that,
Sounds unbelievable. Now, do you meditate kind of when you were going through this? Or are you just like, what are you just sitting, just laying on top or whatever you're doing, just relaxing for, say, 1 minute, or is it a 5 minute, 10 minutes? How long do you usually, or is it just what you feel?
In a class, let's say most of my classes are minimum of 90 minutes. I go usually about 2 hours with every class, right? Because I like to really give a good class and help people change, right?
Does it look like a yoga class then? Is that what it kind of looks like?
Not at all. So I'll tell you what, I was going to do my yoga teacher certification, right? But every time I did yoga, I was in pain every time because of my condition. For me to be able to do physical activity, I really have to warm up properly and build up a sweat. I'd get into yoga, I'd do a downward dog and my shoulder would pinch and I'd be done for 2 or 3 days. Right. I'm not downing it. I love yoga. I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it. I think but they say if you're breathing, you're practicing yoga. Yoga is a breath practice. It's not. And here we go back to the breath. Back to the breath, man.
Yeah.
So why this, and to answer your question, it doesn't look like a yoga class. It looks nothing like a yoga class. It looks like a bunch of people sitting on a block of wood, laying on a block of wood in various ways. Their head, it looks quite strange. And we stay in each position for a minimum of 3 minutes.
Okay.
If you think back to your high school athlete days and your coach, your football coach is saying, hey, you got to stretch. You don't even stretch for 10 seconds. You hold your leg up for a second, you hold your arm and you're done, right? You do a 5 count or whatever and you're done.
Sure.
That's not a stretch. That's not a way to relieve a restriction in the body. It takes years for your fascia to grip in ways that throw your body off. A lot of people have this going on where one shoulder is higher than the other. That restriction took years to happen. You think you're going to relieve it with a 10-second stretch or rolling over a foam roller for 30 seconds? Hell no. No. This takes time, man. This takes time and concentration, manifestation. Again, getting the mind right to release this, picturing your body without the restriction before you're even there, feeling what it's like to be able to lift your arm over your head before it wasn't. For 2 years after we knew each other, when I told you my injuries took a turn, I couldn't lift my arm past this.
Wow.
I had a total frozen shoulder, man. I wanted to die because you go from weightlifting and being able to do all this stuff and your arm doesn't work. That's where the cortisone shots happen, the pain pills, you name it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and it is meditative. It's a lot of people think meditation is sitting cross-legged with a mudra and just sitting there and breathing.
No.
Meditation is relative to the meditator. Right?
Absolutely.
Everybody
You could even do
meditates
workout
differently.
meditation. There's all different styles, right?
I work out and I meditate. I'm
Exactly.
breathing. I'm focused on my breath. I'm aware of my body. You know, things are coming into my head, and you know when it and that's part of it too, is calming the mind, because the fascia and other restrictions in our body, there are more things happening, more energetic blocks and restrictions happening from emotions than there is from actual physical injuries. Stress stores in the body, man. You get stressed out, your belly hurts, your back hurts. Stress stores in the body. And and trauma stores in the body. You don't know how many people I've had get on this block and just start crying. Myself, I've had it where I've just started crying because you're releasing something that's trapped in your body, and energy that's released. My favorite saying is, when energy is not expressed, it's depressed.
Interesting.
Right? What the lack of expression is depression. When we don't express something, it depresses ourselves in our body. People that are depressed are just trying to express themselves one way or another. Right? That's why working out and movement and getting energy going through the body is so important, because it removes that depressed feeling from the body, but it's just depressed energy. Depressive thoughts are depressed energy,
Is this like a self-intense deep tissue massage kind of? I know that sounds crazy, but if somebody, instead of squeezing their hands on a certain area for a certain amount of time, you're using the wood to do this. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. So there's also a body worker aspect of block therapy. It's called Fluid Isometrics. The person that developed this, Deanna Hansen, incredible. If you have time, look her up. She's written books.
Okay.
She's an athletic therapist, and she uses her hands to heal people.
Yeah.
And she developed the block therapy. She did lots of years of research, and she's got an incredible story as well. And she has developed this technique of the self-care practice of it. Yes, I could come to you and I could do similar to what I'm doing with the block with my hands, right? There's a lot of very interesting fascial release therapies. There's soft touch therapy. I actually had one of the most profound experiences of my life from something called soft touch therapy, where somebody was just touching my body like this on my hips, on my psoas muscle. You know the psoas muscle?
I don't know.
It's a deep flexor muscle. It basically connects your lower body to your upper body, and it runs from your hip flexor to your spine.
Okay.
Right. And this is a huge area where a lot of people hold stress, is in the psoas. It starts with a P, P-S-O-A-S. And, I had somebody working in there, but very lightly, holding down. And she did 1.5 hour therapy with me, just holding in that one spot, touching. I mean, pushing. It was just touching. I fell asleep for the 1.5 hours. I woke up, she was still there. And I'm like, what the hell? Rich, my back was out the next morning.
Wow.
My back was out completely, this pain. And she's like, you're detoxing the injury. You're detoxing the pain. And I'm like, you're never touching me again.
Wow.
Right. And this was in Nicaragua. So I had this teacher. She's like, this is when I need to work on you the most. And I'm like, you're crazy. What did you do to me? I thought this was some witchcraft, man. This is before my understanding of fascia was real, right? Before I even knew what it was. So she put me back on the table. She lightly touches me again. My legs start involuntarily shaking. My testicles were doing this. I kid you not. Everything in my body was flexing, and just like I was shaking, and the tears started. I mean, like I cried like I was at somebody's funeral, man. Like, I was. And she just told me it's okay. She stayed there, and after that, Rich, I felt like a new man. It was like an orgasmic release, like you wouldn't believe, right? Like just this feeling of freedom in my body. And it was, I don't know what I was releasing. I don't know what trauma I was releasing, what was stopped up in my body, but I knew it was gone, right?
Wow.
And trauma is different for everybody. Trauma can be, the death of a loved one, sadness. Trauma can be you had a bad moment at 7-Eleven, somebody pissed you off and you're holding on to it all day and you hold that stress in your body.
Sure.
It's relative to the experiencer once again.
Yep.
Right. So, part of this is relieving that trauma. And I've had a lot of experiences, man. I've had a lot of experiences with people relieving trauma, not only as a body worker, but as using the block therapy. And that's where I really find that I can help people, is getting rid of that stuff. And trauma is also from physical injuries, right? It's
Sure.
all encompassed in one. But when we see our body as what holistically is what it is, spiritual, physical, mental, right? The whole thing all around, it stores everything in there, man. Your body is where it stays. It's not just up here. So, this is more than just helping people lose weight, helping people, get their mind right. It's helping people get rid of the baggage, helping people let go,
Yeah. Does it also help the block therapy? Like, it's about getting your entire body in line after a certain amount of time?
Oh yeah.
Is
It's
that
about,
really what
it's
about
restoring that posture.
Yeah,
Restoring
absolutely.
posture, right? Learning how to stand again, learning how to sit again, learning how to breathe again. It's like you're starting off as a baby, because it takes years to you aren't born with improper posture. You're not born inflexible. If you look at little kids, they're doing splits and squats and in perfect form.
It's natural.
It's natural.
Yeah.
What happens is over years of sitting at a desk or not doing anything really, which is most people's problem, is they don't move. We develop the restrictions, too much movements with one hand.
Yeah.
You wake up every single day. You use your dominant hand for brushing your teeth, brushing your hair. You do everything with your dominant hand. Meanwhile, this guy over here is suffering. He's not getting the movement he needs.
Of course.
So this just becomes frozen, right? So, you might have, and it's different for everybody. Everybody's body holds differently. You might have more restriction in the right side of your body, but your pain is manifesting on the left side, right?
Yeah.
And this is very common. So, with the block therapy, we might be targeting your shoulder pain, but we're working in your right rib cage. We're working on the right hip. We're working on your right leg. We get down to the actual problem, not the symptom, right? And that's the huge part of this, is treating the actual problem and learning how to stand again, learning how to properly align yourself.
Yeah,
It's
especially
huge.
like us with phones now, right? The way we stand, the laziness, our posture, holding a phone or an iPad, whatever the case may be, the way we sit, all these things, like you're saying, affect every aspect of our posture. And you can see it starting at a younger and younger age, right, with kids.
Yep.
Even their body.
It's sad. It's sad.
Yeah, video games. You could see younger guys now, their whole foundation's kind of a curve, I think, a lot of times. So, yeah.
It's a can of worms, man. There's so many avenues we can dive down when it comes to restrictions and fascia and how this all plays a part in our life. But you see it a lot. You ever seen what's called the Dowger's hump? That lump that people are getting on their back of their neck. It's becoming more common and more common, and it's from the head being in this forward position. If your head is constantly like this, your body tries to correct it by compromising your posture, by weakening other muscles and creating muscle in other areas, and then you permanently become fixed like that. You concrete that in, and correcting that is no easy task, but it can be done.
Yeah, where I've seen a lot of that is in Italy with a lot of the servers, because their posture, they're always like wanting to make it look like they're helping you, right? And they're always serving people, and their neck, you can see that. And I always call that like a waiter's body or a waiter frame.
Yeah, a lot of chefs, a lot of people that work in the kitchen, because they're always bending over.
Exactly. A lot of I could immediately tell, especially in Italy, I saw it the most, like who's a server, which is half the countries, in hospitality.
Yeah.
They all have that, because a lot of them don't work out, but they're always, like you just said, they're hunched, but it's almost a proper way to address people. It's not kind of like if you're waiting at a table and you're like this, you look off a little offensive. If you lean into the person and you're talking to them about what the specials are, what the wine is, you build that, and you can just see that.
And think about this. If that person were to go to a a chiropractor or a doctor to correct this. You go to, we'll talk about the doctor first. The doctor is going to, first of all, refer you out. So we'll throw him out the window. He doesn't know anything about this, right? The doctor's probably overweight and eating bacon every morning himself, right? But you go to a chiropractor and you have scoliosis, or you have a problem with your spine or your posture. They're cracking your back and they're putting something back into place, right?
Okay.
What they're not correcting is what's pulling you out of place. That's why people got to go back once a week, once every 2 weeks to the chiropractor. I remember I used to go to the chiropractor twice a week. I got a lot of love for him because he helped me through a lot of pain. But, now I've evolved and I've realized, like, my pain is not coming from a misalignment in my spine. Yes, that's causing the pain, right? That's causing a nerve issue, a nerve compression. But I need to fix the restriction that is pulling my spine out of line. And that's where the fascia comes into play.
Right.
We're not targeting what's caused. Yeah. So take scoliosis, for example. People will get their backs cut open, the tissues realigned to fix scoliosis. Scoliosis that develops over time is being developed by something in your body that's pulling that spine to the side or pulling it out of place. We can fix that. Mm-hmm. But we're not open-minded enough, right? We don't want it bad enough. The people that want to heal will find a way to heal their body. Your body is designed to heal itself. You just have to give it a conducive environment to do so. Yeah. You have to give it the tools. You have to put the right stuff in it. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. How can people find you? Give them that information right now, because we're over an hour here. I like to keep them around an hour.
Yeah, people can find me
on
Facebook.
Tell them right now. Go ahead.
Yep. My Facebook is Chris Prado. I'm friends with you, so if they're friends with you, they can just look me up there. On Instagram, I am Prado Moves, at Prado Moves, PRADOMOVES, Prado Moves. And my block therapy link is in my Instagram bio, which is blocktherapy.com/Chris Prado. And they can look up my information. They can reach out to me. I'm an open book, man. I'm an open book of experience, and it's my own journey that I've lived, and I want to help people just like you do. I want to help people, man.
Yeah, Chris. Normally I only go about a half an hour to an hour. We're at about an hour and 20, and I love it. I can talk to you all day. We got to do follow-ups with you because you you have so much information to offer. I definitely want to do different subjects next time. Maybe we could just touch upon, even if one's only a half an hour, and we just keep you as a recurring guest, because you have, like I said, you're so interesting. You're so honest. You've been through so much. I think a lot of people will be able to relate to you as far as your past and kind of the lifestyle that you lead. I think it's an amazing ride you've had, and you're such a young guy still. It's not like you've had so many life experiences before the age of even, how old are you now? 30? I don't even know.
30. Yeah, I'm 30, right on the dot.
Yeah, you have the mindset of somebody who's lived a much longer life or has experienced so much, right? Physically, setbacks, all these things. It's amazing, Chris, what you've been through. I never knew 90% of what you're telling me.
Well, I love this, man. I would love to do one of these at least weekly and keep people motivated. I love you to death, man. I always looked up to you when we were working together. You always, made me laugh and had good advice.
I loved all you young guys. That's what made me stay there. But here's a funny story is, when my father sold his business, I had nowhere to work. It was 2008. The economy, went to the shitter. Everything I was working on getting funding for films wasn't working. And my friend said, hey, I don't know if you want to go back to your high school roots and go valet park. And I said, absolutely. But when I got there, the average age there was probably 25 and I'm 40. But you guys were all of you guys. And I hope I had some of the best times of my life. I said it was like living my youth over again. Plus you guys, I just got in better shape too, because we're running. And then I kind of kept in that shape because I was kind of always fluctuated between 210 and 230. But anyways, it was the greatest time. But I want to also do something with you is maybe if you can get some questions, because I normally don't do Q&As on here. But with you, if you have some Q&A stuff, even some of your clients could give you, you email them to me and we kind of go through them, I think would be a great way to start regarding many different things with someone like yourself, because you have so much to offer.
That'd be great, and whatever I can divulge is my pleasure.
Yeah.
So I really look forward to the next one, man. I wish we could literally talk like this the whole day. So
I know. I try to just keep it so people don't get exhausted. I also don't want to give everything away on one podcast, truthfully, because if you're going to be a reoccurring guest,
we won't. Don't worry, we won't. There's a lot more where it comes from, man.
Exactly. All right, brother. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you again. I'm going to be posting this. I got to come up with a unique title for you, the subject information, because it's so dynamic. It's a lot to take.
It sure is, but we'll keep it coming, man. I can't wait for the next one, seriously. So
all righty. I will
be back soon.
All right, I'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right, brother. Take care, man.
You too.